Okay, welcome everybody. How have we got to nearly 3:30 already? I feel like I've blinked, and we are here. Thank you so much for joining this closing session. Just going to let people come in from the waiting room. Great to see you. Hope you enjoyed your coffee break and the sessions that you have attended today. Endings are important, aren't they? In all walks of life, really. So, the chance to have a bit of reflection together, to think about the so what after an event like this, and then to be able to transition into whatever you're doing next for the rest of your afternoon. I hope that you found inspiration in the sessions you've been part of today. You're feeling energized by what you've heard and the people that you've met today. This short final session has 3 parts to it. So first, we're going to hear some reflections from a few of you about what you're taking away today and what you valued. And I'm delighted that Kathryn Perera from NHS England has joined me this afternoon. She'll be sharing some reflections on the system priorities and the challenges there, and talking to you about what you can do next. And then finally, we'll have a group checkout chat box style. I hope that sounds okay for our closing this afternoon. So I'm going to get started by inviting Cecily and Dave into the space. Cecily Hollingworth is from NHS Sussex, where she's a commissioning manager, and Dave Morgan is a QI manager at the North East Ambulance Service, and he's also been working with the Horizons team on Project A, which was a 12-month improvement programme, and Kathryn's nodding her head, so there's a nice little connection there for Kathryn and Dave. So do unmute yourselves, and an open question. I'll start with you, Cecily, first. Just keen to hear any general reflections that you have, and what's standing out for you this afternoon coming out of the event today.
There are 2 things I was particularly struck by. So one thing, I was thinking about what Amar Shah was saying about performance as being as what matters to others, and QI as being what matters to us individually, perhaps. And I was thinking about how we change that to being what matters to us as a system, as us as a partnership, and how do we get that? One of the services I commission is maternity care, so thinking about what matters to us, as well as being directed nationally about what's important to look at. And then related to that was thinking about those practical tips for collaboration across boundaries, and thinking about the importance of listening in order to understand, in order to collaborate on identifying the issue, in order to then go on to co-produce the possible solutions. So yeah, those are my key things.
Oh, thank you. And a real connection there to the human side of improvement that we heard Penny talk about this morning as well. Definitely. And I know within that session, and within talking about the challenges around performance management and improvement, the kind of language that we're using to engage with people and actively listening is definitely something that stood out for me as well. Dave, where are you at, and what's standing out for you at this point?
Thanks, Stacey. So I think there was a phrase that Penny said this morning around the power that we hold to influence recovery. I thought that was sort of really sort of hit home, that actually, we are the ones that are able to influence a lot of this, not all of it, but a lot of it. And there were some amazing people. I particularly enjoyed talking with Christine this afternoon. So hi, Chris, nice to meet you. So I suppose my reflections on the collaboration, if I had the world's largest ambulance, and this isn't a pitch for a new idea, with everybody that was on the event today, with all of the data, the technology, all of the everything that's been discussed today, I think that there would be very few of our patients, from my perspective, that would have a poor experience or a poor outcome. So how do we try and mimic that, so that whilst we're out with our patients, and that could be a patient on a ward in a primary care, it's irrelevant, is how can we try and use those sort of experiences, because our experiences on our own are really valuable, with our mistakes and our perspectives, etc. But if we start to overlay that with other people's perspectives and their thoughts and their experiences and all of those powerful things, then that becomes invaluable rather than just valuable. So I think my main reflection, I'll just very quickly take you back to 1980 or the 1980s. So for those who remember, there was a video game called Gauntlet, as in a glove. And it was a series of mazes and things that you had to do to get to an exit. And the reason that I refer to that is there was 4 characters. There was a wizard, a warrior, a Valkyrie, and an elf. And each had their own unique strengths, characteristics, and weaknesses. And as the game progressed, you had to utilize those 4 characters. Otherwise, you would never get to the next level and to the higher level. So that was by sharing food or cooperating to complete a task. And if you didn't complete those tasks, well, your health went. And actually, it sort of reminds me of some of the work we do in the fact that it gets to a point where we've exhausted everything and then we have to buy another credit and start at the beginning again. So it's just how do we change that? And I suppose to sum up the 5 W's and a H, who do we need? Well, we've got all the Gauntlet players that we need. We've got the right people. We know what we need to do. When do we need to do it? So we've already made some connections, and I'm gonna send some emails out later on about some paediatric joining up we were doing around handovers. Where? Well, we'll just go where it takes us. The why, I suppose, if anybody's got a good argument against not collaborating, please let us know. I'm sure it'll be interesting to get a different take on it. And the how, as my closing reflection, is that's up to us, I suppose. So it's been a really good day to re-engage again and step out of the me bit and join in with the us. So yeah, it was really good.
Thanks, David. And that is exactly what this space is for. And if you look in the chat box, you will see some comments from other fans of Gauntlet. So you've definitely got some kudos there. Great example. I will be going back to the recording and listening to the detail of that again, for sure. And you know, you're using that example as a point to bring the point home about the different players that you need in order to help improve and make change happen. And it is both the technical and the human, as we were talking about this morning, wasn't it? Kathryn, have you got any thoughts before I invite you in to say a few words as well?
So I spent months of my life with my many brothers playing Gauntlet, and I have struggled over the years to remember what it was called. So you've just solved a mystery for me, as well as making a beautiful point. I also want to give a shout out, Cecily, for your gorgeous dog. It's one of the things about working virtually, isn't it? It's lovely just to see each other as human beings. And I think, Stacey, before I kind of give a few minutes of comment, that's the main thing I'm hearing here, is the human aspects of how we make change happen, how we make improvement happen, and how that affects communities and patients. So I just want to say, as a final reflection in the session, that's the energy that's coming across from the day.
Yes, great. Thank you, Kathryn. Dave and Cecily, thank you so much. Appreciate your reflections, and I've seen you both on social media as well today. So thanks very much for that, for your participation. I am going to hand over to Kathryn now, but I will introduce you properly, Kathryn, for people who don't know. So Kathryn is the director of NHS Horizons, which is a large-scale internal consultancy that works with leaders across the health and care system. And she's also the interim director of the improvement capability building and delivery teams at NHS England. So we're working closely with Kathryn and her team in relation to Q. Really delighted that you're here this afternoon, and I'll hand over to you now to share some of your reflections with us.
Stacey, thanks so much, and thanks everybody for an opportunity just to spend really a couple of minutes with you to offer some thoughts and as part of the close off for the day that you've had together. Being from NHS England, you would, I know, expect me to reference the immediate priorities that we share, that we are working on in terms of winter pressures, ambulances, discharge, elective recovery, and the full list. Although to acknowledge too that the framing of that list is acute, focused and centred, whereas we know that improvement happens not at specific, or not only at specific points of practice, but it happens most effectively when we take a much more expansive understanding of what it means to improve. And one of the things, Stacey, I've been heartened to see as I've read into the materials, looked at the sessions that have been happening today, is the ability to stay connected to questions of equity, questions of us as people, so the person-centred aspects of health and healthcare improvement, as well as focusing on some of the operational priorities that really matter right now. And I think what I want to say as somebody who works in NHS England, but whose natural temperament is also one foot in and one foot out, so I run a consultancy that's somewhat at the edge, is that those conversations are also live for us in the central teams, the national teams, in a way that I've not seen previously. And I've been there sort of 7 years in the national team. And in a way that you might think operational priorities would crowd out, but it doesn't. So I think what I would say is, even as we face the pressures that we do, continue to push us around the way that we frame our work, and continue to push open the possibilities for healthcare improvement and quality improvement and a more expansive understanding of it. So I just want to name 3 things that I think are valuable in the work that you've been doing today. One is that bigger picture landscape, holding perspectives that are truly looking at the interdependencies across the system. The second one is, I love that the Q community is explicitly building on the history that we have, multi-decades of improvement and quality improvement experience and expertise, rather than acting as though we're starting from a greenfield or we're building a new simply because we've reconfigured the architecture. And I think thirdly, linked to that, the fact that you're framing the conversations around the new possibilities. How do we collaborate across boundaries? How do we develop a practice for system improvement? What will that even look like as we move into the new ways of organising? You know, these are big questions that Q community members have a key role in leading us towards, in agitating us around, in developing the practice and the evidence base for as we move forward. So I think the final thing I wanted to say was, for the past 5 months, there's been a delivery and continuous improvement review happening, organised through the central teams, but at the request of Amanda Pritchard, Chief Executive of NHS England. She's asked that we look at how we build improvement capability for long-term sustainability, alongside focusing on operational priorities. One of the things in that review was, can we articulate what a whole system approach to improvement could look like? And we reached a big milestone in that work today, with the NHS executive asking us to take it forward, to go further, to put resource behind working up what that looks like in practice, in collaboration with our integrated care systems and provider leadership too. So in amongst the operational pressures, in amongst the toughest winter that the NHS has seen, there are real opportunities for us to influence and to lead differently in service of better health outcomes through looking at improvement, the practice and the thinking. And I know we're going to take this conversation further, Stacey, next week at the session in Leeds and then on in Bristol. But I think the Q community has a huge role in making that happen. So thank you for asking me to be part of the closing reflections.
Thanks so much, Kathryn, and great to hear that, and the role that members of the Q community can play, and the leading, the agitating, developing practice. That's a nice trio combination of different things that that people can be providing and paying attention to. And I know some of those conversations will have started today in some of our sessions, and very much looking forward to getting into more detail on this next week in Leeds and Bristol. And of course, we'll be sharing more information for people who won't be there via our usual communication tools. So thank you, Kathryn. Very much appreciate it. If anyone has any comments or questions, feel free to pop them into the chat box. We are going to close off with hearing from you in terms of how you're feeling about today, what you're walking away with. Going to have a quick chat box checkout, a bit different this time to the one I did this morning. For those of you who joined us this morning, I have a few statements to make, and we'll ask you to complete them in the chat box. When I do, I'm going to ask you to hold fire on pressing send until I say so. So therefore we can create some momentum and energy and see all of your responses and spend a bit of time looking at those. So my first question to you all is, one word that describes my experience here today is, and hold fire until I say, one word that describes my experience here today is. Okay, and off you go and press send, and let's see what you've all got to say. Connected, refreshing, thoughtful, encouraging, inspiring, expansive. Brilliant, thank you. Enlightening, thought-provoking. Someone's chosen 3, but I like it. Motivating, thought-provoking. I can go with that. Energizing, reflective. Yes, it's important to create these reflective spaces, isn't it? To have a day out and fill your cup. The second statement is, what I have valued about today is, and I'll ask you to hold off for a second. What I have valued about today is. I'll give you a few moments to write your answer. And press send once you've completed. Talking to others, learning, wider perspectives, a sense of hopefulness, I like that. Examples and reflection in smaller groups. It can be really helpful, can't it, to hear some great content and then actually start to make sense of it with a small group of peers in order to progress your learning and move to action. The energy, open dialogue, like-minded people, fantastic. Making connections, learning, safe spaces. Great, thank you everybody. And my final statement is, I am leaving this event with. I am leaving this event with. Ask you to hold fire and then off you go. Confidence, motivation, optimism. More 6 to join, I bet. Learning from other people's experience, energy, new thinking, new perspectives. I think when I asked the question at the beginning of the day, there was one of the things I noticed that people said they're just looking forward to the element of surprise, not quite knowing what they'd be learning or who they'd be talking to. And I hope that came true for those of you who said that. A reminder and reassurance that collaboration is crucial. Absolutely, we strongly and firmly believe that is the key, one of the keys. More knowledge than I had before I came, food for thought, learning, confidence, excellent, feeling connected. Really wonderful to see. Really wonderful to see. Thank you so much. Before I give my kind of final farewell, I will ask you, as ever, to if you can fill out the feedback form that we have on the Spot Me platform. You will get an email reminder about that. We are really keen to learn and improve and ensure that we're creating really meaningful spaces for you all through these events that we do. We really enjoy doing them. They are one of the highlights of our year. We are looking forward to seeing some of you in Bristol or Leeds next week. And these events will focus on attendee generated content around a key question. I thought it might be helpful to share that with you. The key question we're focusing on is thinking about the current context of the health and care system. What are the most important conversations we need to be having about collaborative improvement that will help you progress your work? You can use the homepage on the digital platform to share some of your ideas around conversations. If you're on Twitter too, please feel free to share them there. We'll be looking out for discussions and conversations about those as we go into the events next week. I'd also like to say a heartfelt thanks to all of our wonderful speakers who have given their time and energy over today and the run up to today to run those sessions and have those conversations with you. And a huge thank you to the Q team who have importantly designed and delivered today with you in mind. And we do hope that that has hit the mark for you and that you have enjoyed all of the connection and learning and ideas that you've seen today. So to close off, I'm going to suggest that we all unmute ourselves and give yourselves and everyone else a huge round of applause. Thank you. Thank you. Good to hear the clapping. I haven't done that before. I wasn't sure how that would work. Thanks so much. Really enjoyed meeting and connecting with all of you. I hope you have a great rest of the afternoon.